In the relatively new player's handbook, we get a new druid, the Circle of the Sea Druid. Now, this is kind of a strange druid. This video is going to be about exploring some of their features and doing the build I would personally do if I was going solo Sea Druid. Let's jump into it. So one of the first things you'll notice about the Sea Druid is that everything revolves around an emanation, and that emanation begins at a measly 5 feet distance, which almost incentivizes us to get in close. And that's how I'm going to play this build out. Potentially not the most optimal thing to do as a caster, but it's what we're going to be doing in this build because I find it the most interesting. So let's begin by talking about our lineage. I'm going to be going elf, high elf. Specifically. The reason why is that we're going to get a wizard cantrip, and that wizard cantrip is going to be True Strike. Now my reading is that True Strike and Shillelagh stack, and since we only get one attack, we're never getting extra attack, and we're going to be in melee, we need to make it count. This Shillelagh True Strike combo is a good way to do that. Along with that, at level 3 we're going to get Detect Magic, just a generally useful spell. And at level 5, we're going to get Misty Step. Misty Step is a spell druids normally don't get, and it's absolutely fantastic. They wish they did. Then you get everything else that comes with being an elf. Elves are just good. As for our background, I'm interested in Farmer here. Farmer gives us Tough. Tough is really important. That plus 2 HP is pretty dang significant when you take it times your level, especially as a druid. Normally we're rocking a D8. This is essentially making us more like a barbarian, rocking a D12. It's very significant. As for our stats, our primary is definitely going to be Wisdom, super important in this build, and then our secondary is going to be Constitution. That's basically it. After that, you are going to want to have at least 14 in Dexterity, just so we can wear our medium armor. Past that, you can kind of drop whatever you want to drop. Level 1 and 2 are basically your normal druid. The only difference is that we're going to be more incentivized to go in up close and attack in melee because of our True Strike plus Shillelagh combo. If we wanted to play more defensive, we can use True Strike with a light crossbow and have that be a pretty decent cantrip for us, so there is a lot of flexibility that comes with True Strike. Overall though, we're going to be doing what druids mostly do, staying out of most danger, using Entangle as our primary fight winning spell, and going to smack the crap out of people. Now an important choice here is whether we go Magician or Warden. I'm definitely recommending Warden with an up-close build. This is going to give us the medium armor proficiency, and medium armor is much better for druids now because we're not forced into taking a metal-less armor, so we can actually get a half-decent medium armor now. Let's take advantage of that here. Our AC is going to be way better than an old druid's would have been. Now our playstyle primarily changes at level 3. We get Wrath of the Sea. As a bonus action, we create an emanation around us, and then we affect someone in that emanation. That emanation is going to be a wisdom save. If they fail it, they're going to take a bunch of d6s of damage, equal to our wisdom modifier, which is one of the reasons it's so important. Wisdom is so important with this build, absolutely rush getting it as soon as possible. If they're large or smaller, it's also going to knock them back up to 15 feet, which is a pretty dang solid knockback. Now, this is a Constitution save, which means that a lot of times people are going to succeed this, and we kind of need to expect that. We can be a melee druid build, which is kind of the idea behind this, but really we need to plan on failing most of the time with these con saves, and it's a bonus when we do land it. Now, when we do land it, the amount of d6s is significant. Even fairly early game, you're looking at 4 d6s of damage as a bonus action. That is significant damage. Plus the knockback if we can make the most out of it. So basically what we're trying to do with this build is use the combination of melee and concentration spells that get benefits from knocking enemies through them or into them or whatever. So things like Spike Growth, Entangle, Conjure Animals, Conjure Woodland Beings, these are all standout spells, and it's one of the reasons I actually want to go into this pure Sea Druid. I think there's different builds you could do. You could definitely take one level of fighter and be a better martial, but by slowing down those levels, we really care about having good spells, almost every single level. We're excited to get to level 2 for Spike Growth. We're excited to get to 3rd level spells for Conjure Animals. We're excited to get to 4th level spells, especially for Conjure Woodland Beings. So by not taking levels anywhere else, we're not going to have every other level feel like we should have something that we don't. 4th level, we're going to get a feat if we have an odd number of wisdom, which is going to be Warcaster. We need to keep a great concentration as we're up in melee combat. this is going to help us do that. So we definitely really want to start the game off with an odd wisdom. If we don't, then you just have to bump wisdom here because wisdom is super important, but your concentration suffers because of that. At level 5, we get Wild Resurgence. This is okay. The main reason we're excited here is to pick up Conjure Animals, which I never thought I'd say that, but the new book, I will actually say I'm excited to take Conjure Animals. Kind of like a moving Spirit Guardians is a good way to think about it. So what we can do with Conjure Animals is we run it around, getting it within 10 feet of as many enemies as possible. We're then going to smack one with our Sea Aura, hopefully knocking it away. Then we want to end Conjure Animals right by whatever creature we smacked. This sets up a no-win situation for them. If they move at all, they're going to be taking that Conjure Animals damage again, and if they end their turn in it, they're going to be taking it again anyways. Now, the Sea Aura allows us to knock our enemies around, do extra damage, and we can kind of push people onto one group and then put Conjure Animals in that group to get that double damage to more creatures. Pretty cool synergy, and it's one of the rewards for using this strange playstyle that the Sea Druid brings, a much more melee playstyle than a normal Druid has. Level 6, we're going to get Aquatic Affinity. This is going to give us a swim speed equal to our walking speed, which is fine, but the much bigger deal is our emanation size increases by 5 feet. This means anyone who attacks at 5 feet, we can outrange with our aura now. Now we can't do the Shillelagh plus True Strike combo if we're outside of 5 feet, but if we're feeling like playing more defensive, we could whip out a crossbow, use True Strike there, or any of our Druid cantrips, use the emanation to attempt to push them away. If we fail, we can retreat ourselves. It allows us to have a secondary playstyle that's far more defensive in nature, and that's always good just to have that flexibility. Level 7 is a big level for us because we get Conjure Woodland Beings. Conjure Woodland Beings is kind of like a budget version of Spirit Guardians, even though it's a spell level more. It's not going to slow them down in half, but it does do really solid damage. So this emanation triggers whenever they enter it or they end their turn in it. So we can make them enter it, do some damage to them, and then we can push them away with our Sea Aura. Then if they move back in to come attack us, they take the damage again. So it's kind of the more defensive style. The Conjure Woodland Beings kind of protects you more, which is a bit different, but it's a bit more aggressive in that you have to position yourself forward if you want to hit a bunch of different enemies. I think there's a lot of nuance between Conjure Animals and Conjure Woodland Beings and which one you want to use in which situation. Also at level 7, we're going to be getting Primal Strike. This is just going to increase our damage output with our cantrips a little bit more. By going Primal Strike, you're going to be incentivized to use crossbow with True Strike over your other cantrips a bit more if you're doing a ranged option. But our Shillelagh True Strike option is still our best cantrip. Level 8, we take Wisdom, no matter what. Again, Wisdom is so important. It's both our save and our damage output for our bonus action. It's good for everything a Druid does. We really want Wisdom here. From here on out, we're probably going to be looking towards Constitution. Level 10, we get Stormborn. It's going to give us a flying speed, which is pretty insane. Concentrationless flight is absolutely incredible, and we're going to get it all the freaking time. Now this just increases our mobility by a significant amount and our combat utility as well, because it gives us a lot more positioning to be able to push enemies into cool locations using our Sea Aura. It also gives us resistance to 3 different damage types. That includes cold, lightning, and thunder damage, which are relatively used. I would say cold and lightning stand out to me as used a fair amount. So moving forward, we're going to basically still do the same thing. The only real big change is going to be happening at level 14, where we get Oceanic Gift. This is the last feature of the Sea Druid, and it's going to allow us to give our eminence to one of our allies, and if we use 2 wild shapes, we get to give it to both them and us. So now they can use a bonus action with our Wisdom modifier to attempt to push enemies, so we can kind of ping pong people around. It's kind of cool, kind of neat, and opens up a brand new playstyle where we give our eminence to the frontline fighter, and then we play like a normal Druid and decide to play in the back line. So now we have 3 playstyles. You kind of have the very aggressive, go get in their face, the kind of dancing around and just getting close enough for your Sea Aura to do some damage to them, and now we have this play way back and let your allies handle it. And that is the Sea Druid build. It's kind of fun to have a Druid that is incentivizing us to go up close that isn't a wild shaping Druid. It's doing kind of its own thing, has its own little niche. Is it the best? I don't think so. What are my overall thoughts and feelings on the Sea Druid? Kind of difficult to build with, really, because you are now being incentivized to go really, really close to your enemies to maybe do some damage and get some pushback. So it's not the highest reward in the world for how bad of positioning it convinces you to go put yourself in. But your only other option is to not have bad positioning, play like a normal druid, and then if you're pressured, then turn on the Sea Aura and try and use it defensively. That's definitely a valid way of playing it, but do you get the value you would get out of playing one of those other druids who are more built for being in the back line? Absolutely not. So overall, I'd say as far as druids go, power level is fairly low, but druids are excellent in general, and I think that continues to be the case here. So you could definitely get away with playing this build, with playing the Sea Druid, having a great time. It's definitely a power level that you can still feel like you're influencing the table in a positive way. Let me know how you guys would build your Sea Druid, what fancy things you guys have come up with. Let me know in the comments down below. But with that, my friends, hope you have yourselves an incredible day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.